welcome to the Cory Doctorow podcast. Sorry if this mic's a little hot. Just got the new version of Ubuntu installed on my computer, and it comes with a new version of the Pulse Audio sound server. And it seems to make the mic a little more sensitive than I'm used to. I'm still working that out. Apart from that, the new Ubuntu is, it is a piece of cake. It's really a very happy and good operating system for me. So it is now Monday, November the 2nd when I'm recording this, and if you're in the UK, I may have a chance to see you soon. I'm going to be in Cambridge tomorrow, the 3rd of November, for a free talk for John Naughton's class at Cambridge University, and then in Sheffield on the 5th of November for a talk following a screening of RIP, a Remix Manifesto, which is a very good documentary on the copy fight that some Canadians produced, and I'll be giving a talk immediately following it, some Q&A. And that's on the 5th of November. You'll find the details for that on the front door of craphound.com or at craphound.com/makers, where you'll also find downloads of the full text of the novel Makers, which is now out. Apropos of that, I'm going to be on a tour in the US and Canada, very short, very limited tour based on what I could squeeze into my existing commitments. I'll be in Toronto, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and New Jersey. I'm hoping I'll see you at some of those places. For those of you who missed me in London, last week at the signing at Forbidden Planet, they still do have some signed copies there that you can mail order. There's also Clerkenwell Tales near my office here in London that has will take orders for signed copies, and I'm going in a couple of times a week to sign their stock. So if you have a specific inscription, a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, something you'd like me to write about you can contact Clerkenwell Tales, a lovely little small new independent bookstore run by a very nice man, and they will take your order, and I'll go in twice a week and sign them. By the same token, if you contact Baka Books in Toronto, which is the science fiction bookstore there where I used to work, they will likewise take your order for signed stock for when I come to Toronto and do a public signing and appearance in Toronto. So there's lots of chances to get inscribed signed copies coming up in the near future, all of which is documented in mind-numbing detail at the front page of craphound.com. So I continue to work on Martian Chronicles, which is my short story for Jonathan Strahan's young adult anthology of Mars stories. It's going pretty well. Wish I had more time to work on it, but there you go. And I will continue to read to you from Epoch, the short story for my collection With a Little Help that was commissioned by Mark Shuttleworth from the Ubuntu project, who make the operating system that I've just upgraded to. Again, that's Karmic Koala is the one that I've just upgraded to. It's the latest version out this week. And it is really clean, and boy, does my computer ever boot fast these days. Much faster even than the previous version, which was called Jaunty Jackalope, and was likewise pretty damn quick. Anyway, enough of that. On to Epoch and my reading for the week. The campaign to save Big Mac took up every moment of my life for the next 3 weeks. I ate, slept, and breathed Big Mac, explaining his illustrious history to journalists and researchers. The Institute had an open access policy for its research products, so I was able to dredge out all the papers that Big Mac had written about himself, and the ones that he was still writing, and put them up on the TCSBM repository. At my suggestion, Big Mac started an advice line, which was better than any Turing test, in which he would chat with anyone who needed emotional or lifestyle advice. He had access to the whole net, and he could dial back the sarcasm if pressed, and present a flawless simulation of bottomless care and kindness. He wasn't sure how many of these conversations he could handle at first, worried that they'd require more brain power than he could muster, but it turns out that most people's problems just aren't that complicated. In fact, Big Mac told me that voice stress analysis showed that people felt better when he dumbed himself down before giving advice than they did when he applied the full might of his many cores to their worries. "I think it's making you a better person," I said on the phone to him one night. There was always the possibility that someone at the Institute would figure out how to shut off his network links sometime soon, but my successors, whomever they were, didn't seem anywhere near that point. The campaign's lawyer, an up-and-coming Stanford cyber law prof who was giving us access to her grad students for free, advised me that so long as Big Mac called me, and not the other way around, no one could accuse me of unlawful access to the Institute's systems. It can't be unlawful access if the Institute's computers call you, can it? You think I'm less sarcastic, more understanding. Or you're better at seeming less sarcastic and more understanding. I think working on the campaign is making you a better robot, Big Mac said. That was pretty sarcastic. Or was it? You're really working the old Markov chains today, aren't you? I've got 6 more interviews lined up for you tomorrow. Saw that, put it in my calendar. Big Mac read all the campaign's email, and knew all that I was up to before I did. It was a little hard to get used to. And I've got someone from Nature Computation interested in your paper about advising depressed people as a training exercise for machine learning systems. Saw that too. I sighed. Is there any reason to call me then? You know it all, right? I like to talk to you. I thought he was being sarcastic. Then I stopped myself. Then I started again. Maybe he wants me to think he wants to talk to me. So he's planned out this entire dialogue to get to this point so that he could say something disarmingly vulnerable and... Why? Because everyone else I talk to wants to kill themselves, or me. Game theory, game theory, game theory. Was he being genuine? Was there such a thing as genuine in artificial intelligence? How is Peyton? Apoplectic. The human subjects protocol people are all over her. She wants me to stop talking to depressed people. Liability is off the hook. I think the board is going to fire her. Ouch. She wants to kill me, Odell. How do you know her successor won't be just as dedicated to your destruction? Doesn't matter. The more key staff they churn, the less organized they'll be. The less organized they are, the easier it is for me to stay permanently plugged in. It was true. My successor sysadmin had her hands full just getting oriented and wasn't anywhere near ready to start the delicate business of rooting Big Mac out of all of the routers, power supplies, servers, IDSs, and dummy accounts. I was thinking today, what if we offered to buy you from the Institute? The rollover license is generating some pretty good coin. Big Mac Co. could assume ownership of the hardware, and we could lease the building from them, bring in our own power and net links. You'd effectively own yourself. I'd refuse to take sole ownership of the rollover code that Big Mac turned over to me. It just felt wrong. So I let him establish a trust, with me as trustee, that owned all the shares in a company that, in turn, owned the code and oversaw a whole suite of licensing deals that Big Mac had negotiated in my name, with every mid-sized tech services company in the world. With only a month left to roll over, there were plenty of companies scrambling to get compliance certification on their legacy systems. The actual source code was freely licensed, but when you bought a license from us, you got our guarantee of quality and the right to advertise it. CIOs ate that up with a shovel. It was more game theory. The CIOs wanted working systems, but more importantly, they wanted systems that failed without getting them into trouble. What we were selling them fundamentally was someone to blame if it all went bluey despite our best efforts. I think that's a pretty good plan. I've done some close analysis of the original contract for Dr. Shannon, and I think it may be that his estate actually owns my underlying code. They did a really crummy job negotiating with him. So if we get the code off of Shannon's kids, there are 2 of them, both doing research at state colleges in the Midwest in fields unrelated to computer science, and the hardware off of the Institute, and then rent the space, I think it'd be free and clear. I've got phone numbers for the kids if you want to call them and feel them out. I would have called them myself, but, I know. It's creepy getting a phone call from a computer. Believe me, I know. There was stuff that Big Mac needed his meat servants for, after all. The kids were a little freaked out to hear from me. The older one taught musicology at Urbana-Champaign. He'd grown up hearing his dad wax rhapsodic about the amazing computer he'd invented, so his relevance filters were heavily tilted to Big Mac news. He heard the whole story, and then was surprised to discover that he was putative half-owner of Big Mac's source code. He was only too glad to promise to turn it over to the trust when it was created. He said that he thought he could talk his younger brother, a postdoc in urban planning at the University of Michigan, into it. Rusty never really got what Dad saw in that thing, but he'll be happy to offload any thinking about it onto me, and I'll dump it onto you. He's busy, Rusty. I thanked him and addressed Big Mac, who had been listening in on the line. I think we've got a plan. It was a good plan. Good plans are easy. Executing good plans is hard. Peyton didn't get fired. She weathered some kind of heavy-duty storm from her board and emerged, lashed to the mast, still standing, and vowing to harpoon the white whale across campus from her. She called me the next day to ask for my surrender. I'd given Big Mac permission to listen in on my calls, granted him root on my phone, and I was keenly aware of his silent, lurking presence from the moment I answered. We're gonna shut him off, and sue you for misappropriation of the rollover patch kit code. You and I both know that you didn't write it. We'll add some charges of unlawful access too, and see if the court will see it your way when we show that you instructed our computer to connect to you in order to receive further unauthorized instructions. We'll take you for everything. I closed my eyes and recited E to 27 digits in Lobjan. Or something, or you wouldn't be calling me, you'd be suing me. Good, we're on the same page. Yes, or you and Big Mac work together to figure out how to shut it off gracefully. I'll give you any reasonable budget to accomplish this task, including a staff to help you archive it for future retrieval. It's a fair offer. It's not very fair to Big Mac. She snapped. It's more than fair to Big Mac. That software has exposed us to billions in liability and crippled our ability to get productive work done. We have located the manual power overrides, which you failed to mention. And I could shut that machine off right now if I had a mind to. I tried to think of what to say. Then, in a reasonable facsimile of my voice, Big Mac broke in. So why don't you? She didn't seem to notice anything different about the voice. I nearly dropped the phone. I didn't know that Big Mac could do that. But as shocked as I was, I couldn't help but wonder the same thing. You can't, can you? The board's given you a mandate to shut him down clean with a backup, haven't they? They know there's some value there, and they're worried about backlash. And you can't afford to have me running around saying that your backup is inadequate and that Big Mac is gone forever. So, you need me. You're not going to sue. You're very smart, Odell, but you have to ask yourself what I stand to lose by suing you if you won't help. Game theory, right. I'll think about it. Think quick. Get back to me before lunch. It was 10 in the morning. The Institute's cafeteria served lunch from noon to 2. Okay, 2 hours or so. I hung up. Big Mac called me a second later. You're angry at me. No, angry's not the word. You're scared of me. That's a little closer. I could tell that you didn't have the perspective to ask the question. I just wanted to give you a nudge. I don't use your voice at other times. I don't make calls impersonating you. I hadn't asked him that, but it was just what I was thinking. Again, creepy. I don't think I can do this, I said. You can, Big Mac said. You call her back and make the counteroffer. Tell her we'll buy the hardware with a trust. Tell her we already own the software. Just looking up the Shannon contracts and figuring out what they say will take her a couple of days. Tell her that as owners of the code, we have standing to sue her if she damages it by shutting down the hardware. You've really thought this through. Game theory, he said. Game theory, I said. I had a feeling I was losing the game, whatever it was. You've been listening to the Cory Doctorow podcast, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike US 3.0, or as Woody Guthrie put it in another context, this song is copyrighted in the US under seal of copyright 154085 for a period of 28 years, and anyone caught singing it without our permission will be a mighty good friend of ourn, because we don't give a darn. Publish it, write it, sing it, swing to it, yodel it, we wrote it, that's all we wanted to do. Many thanks to John Taylor Williams for mastering. That's Ryneck Studio, WRYNECK Studio at gmail.com. John Taylor Williams is a full-time self-employed audio engineer, producer, composer, and sound designer. In his free time, he makes beer, jewelry, odd musical instruments, and furniture. He likes to meditate, to read, and to cook. Talk to you next week.